Xtreme scoring to do the work for you.
Watkins Glen, one of the most famous and classic road courses in North America, and we are here at the virtual version of Watkins Glen International for round 4 of season 3 of the SBO Network's American Muscle Series. My name is Alex Andersen. I am joined in the booth by Tom Dillon with Robert Schwenkler in our virtual production truck. And now we're going to give you a bit of information about this iconic circuit. So, just give me a moment. Watkins Glen International is the spiritual home of road racing in the USA, with crowds flocking to see top-level racing since the 1940s. Indeed, virtually all major road racing classes in North America have competed here at one stage or another, from Formula One through to Can-Am and the NASCAR Cup Series. Commonly known as the Glen, the facility is now owned by NASCAR and has been host of the Cup Series every year since 1986. The other major event each year is the Salen's 6 Hours of the Glen, which forms part of the WeatherTech IMSA Sports Car Series. A full program of other racing events and several festivals also take place here across the year. And with that being said, we're currently in qualifying for round 4 of the SBO Network's American Muscle Series Season 3, and we're watching, I believe that's Tom Wentier go around. You just saw him go up through the S's here. Here he is. He's going to come down the back straight and into the bus stop, and a pretty exciting change here for this race tonight. And while it might look like the clouds, because it's very cloudy out here for these guys in this 80-degree weather, we are skipping a portion of the track, and you're about to see Tom go through what I mean here. So we have the normal section. You go through the bus stop and then into the carousel here. But then you're going to notice these guys aren't going to go onto the boot. That's because they're taking the NASCAR Cup layout of just going straight down this short chute here and into turn 6 and then just into 7 to finish off the lap. There is no boot here tonight, which is going to put more emphasis on the draft, and it's already pretty big at this track, but it's about to get a whole lot bigger for these guys out here. And I mean, Tom, what are your thoughts on that? It's gonna be a pretty exciting race.
Also, no pit stops for this one, as it's 2 20-minute heat races. Essentially, so it's going to be an interesting way of doing things. Here's Aero Nom, 120.7, currently fastest on the tower. And we know that draft is so important. We saw it last week in Bathurst, didn't we? How important that draft ended up being. 2 completely different characteristics of circuit, though. And we're going to see something very interesting this evening, that's for sure. And one thing I did want to notice is they head down into the bus stop here. It doesn't look like they're all the way over to the right-hand side there for a moment. It looks like the guards are almost just a few meters or so inside before they turn in, which I think is rather interesting.
Could just be the way you have to drive these cars around this track, and what better driver to show us how to do it than Aero Nom here as he heads down this back straight, which normally the boot starts to spread cars apart, but this back straight with its drafting properties is going to just keep everybody together for just that little bit longer, and we've already seen that occurring in the other SBO Network's American Muscle Series races here at Watkins Glen, so it's going to prove to be an exciting one here as we're going to go for an on-board lap. Full throttle down the pit straight here. Across the line comes Aero Nom to start his 3rd flying lap here. He currently goes fastest again with a 125. You got to brake early for this tight downhill right 90-degree corner. You just got to get right back on the gas. Make sure to not get an off track up that curb. And then you got to come up the hill through the S's here. Full throttle section in most cars here. Looks like he gets onto the curbs a little bit, just trying to keep the wheel as straight as possible, maintain as much momentum as possible. Up into 5th gear they go as they head down the back straightaway here. Aero Nom's just on the gas and on it, and suddenly he's going to hard brake, turn to the right a little bit, just ever so slightly almost missed that guardrail, or almost hit it rather. Then into the carousel he comes, just got to hold it on the curb as this corner just seems to go on forever and ever, and it's going to keep going on further for a little bit longer as he heads on to what is now our back straightaway for this race. And you're just going to keep, this is where the draft is going to play a pretty big role in deciding who gets where down into turn 6. 2 two 90-degree corners to finish off the lap. Through the first one, I do believe the right one is a little bit tighter, and it looks like Aeronom's going to keep it in fourth gear, though. Get on the gas early, get right up against that wall, and down back towards turn one to finish off his lap. We'll see what he pulls off here. It looks like he's going to improve his lap once again with a 124.56 there. And it looks like Wayne Castile now jumps into second with a 127.75. So already Aeronom proving his dominance.
As we'll just quickly pull up the points, but noticing a bit of support for Jay Bast in the YouTube chat. And here are those points. They're currently not on my screen, and judging by the oohs I'm hearing in my ear, I think we might be having a small issue with that at the moment, but we'll press on. Here we go. Here's the pro points eventually. Aeronom is leading the way. The number one car, the previous champion, 104 points to Luis Enriquez's 93 in second position. Scott Banks is in third for Team Volta, 89 points. He is currently sitting on. Then it's Brian Howard from Matt Malone, from Clint Fletcher, from Rob Hartley, all in the 60s and 50s. Then Matthew Guenduza for Gunfire Games is in the 50-point mark, at the 50-point mark, I should say. Wayne Castile is in 9th position with 47 points for the Maragnus M squad. And then David Clymer just a point back from him for the Simpit. Then it's Eric Roenberg, the privateer, in 27 points, and then Tyler Schifflet only on 5th, back in last position in the pro class.
Yeah, so it's a pretty close race here as we're going to go through the challenger standings now, the secondary class. Jay Bass currently leads that one, running for himself with 80 points, but Joe Stout not far behind there with 76. Jason Gata for Turn 7 Racing there rounds out the podium so far. Tied for third with actually Roger Clark here also driving for himself. Both these drivers have 49 points. And it's Phil Keck in P5 with 46, only 3 points behind them. 1 point behind him is Jesse Hodgson in P6. Then it's going to be Matthew Thompson in 7th, only 2 points behind Jesse there. So this midfield obviously very close together. And then only 6 points behind Thompson is Mike Nickham there for D-Nut Stuff in P8. Roy Baker in 9th with 29 points. Only 1 point behind him again is Scott Brooks there in 10th. Michael Puchik only 2 points behind Brooks there in 11th. Then Mike Taylor back there in P12 with only 14 points to his name.
And as for the amateur standings, Edgar Santinelli being absolutely dominant despite not winning last time out. Of course, in the most dramatic of fashions, Edgar Santinelli not winning last time out in Bathurst, but he's on 65 points regardless. 32 points ahead of David Blair for the Simpit in second position. Then it's Dustin Arliss before Mike Thompson Jr. Then it's Chris Schultes on 26 points. Brandon Carl in 6th, ahead of Martin Bork. Chuck Labano in 8th. Jay Little in 9th. Then it's David Stevenson in 10th. Kenny Meadows in 11th. Tom Wendt from Brian Nagy, from Stephen Price, Mike Key, Eric Hardiman, and then Jeff Besnard on 8 points in last.
And currently we're looking at Matthew Thompson going up through the S's and down the back straightaway. And we were talking about Santinelli's dominance, but currently dominating the amateur field at the moment. That's Matthew Thompson. It looks like he's going to roll to a stop as he realizes he's not going to be able to finish that lap. And he currently P8 for himself there. And he leads Chuck Labano, who we're looking at right now, heading into turn 6 by quite a while there. So a great job on his part there for that flying lap. But he has to keep it up during the heats, and he has to make sure that Chuck Labano doesn't try and steal his thunder here, but it doesn't look like he will. I don't know if it's my overlays being messed up, but it looks like he's on 2 minute and 45 his second lap. So it looks like he was going to try and start a flying lap, but he's not going to get to it here as qualifying has come to a close here. And Aeronom, unsurprisingly, on the pole once again here. And this is going to be for the first heat, I believe. But Aeronom on pole once again by over 3/10 to Wayne Castile there in second. Robert Hartley right behind them in third. Scotty Banks there in P4 with Eric Ronenberg rounding out the top 5 in 5th. Louis Henriquez in 6th. Jay Baston 7th. He's the first Challenger driver back there. Mike Thompson back there in 8th, way above any other amateur class competitors, doing a great job on his part. Matt Malone is the 7th pro class driver in this field there in P9, still in the top 10. Michael Puchik, the 2nd Challenger class driver, and he rounds out the top 10. Then is Jesse Hodgson at 11th, Clint Fletcher in 12th. A little bit further back, we have Matthew Thompson there in 13th. Actually, you know what? I do believe he actually is in the Challenger class. It said it was showing amateur on my screen, so apologies for that. Brian Howard there in 14th. Chuck Lebano in 15th. So actually, I do believe that makes Chuck the first amateur driver in this field. David Clymer there in 16th. Mike Nickham in 17th. And Edgar Sancinelli, the dominating amateur class driver. He's going to have some work to do if he wants to catch up to Chuck there in 18th. Then it's Roy Baker in 19th. Matthew Guzenda in 20th. Phil Keck in 21st, Kenny Meadows in 22nd, Dustin Ollis in 23rd, David Blair in 24th. Then a little bit further behind that, we have Scott Brooks in 25th, David Steveson in 26th, Stefan Price in 27th, Brandon Carl in 28th, Chris Schultes in 29th, Mike Taylor in 30th, Jeff Besnard in 31st, Jay Little in 32nd, Michael Key in 33rd, Tom Went in 34th, Eric Hardiman in 35th, and then I believe Randall McGrew back there is our resident race control for this race there, in what it shows 36 for himself. So that's your field for tonight. Actually, there's Martin Bork back there. It looked like got stuck behind Randall there, and then another race control person as well. So a field of 35 drivers on this track, and you might be wondering why are there no drivers that would be in Heat 2 for this, but thing is, heats are going to work differently here tonight. So we're going to have this heat for all of these drivers, and then the top 10 at the end of this race is going to invert. So say at this point, if Michael Puchik, who was starting 10th in this first heat, say if Michael Puchik finishes 10th, in the second heat, he's going to start first and vice versa. So if Aaron Nam wins this heat, he's going to start 10th and everybody in the top 10 is going to invert, but everybody behind them will still be stuck back there trying to make up ground. So we're in so far for an exciting race here tonight.
Absolutely, and reverse grids always create something rather interesting. And on a track that's essentially going to be a slipstream party, it should create a very interesting dynamic heading into the second race. That dynamic we always talk about in a series like this, about the pace difference between the AM, the Pro and the Challenger class. It should be amplified in that second race. We should get a very entertaining event here, as I have noticed as well they're doing a full formation lap here.
Yeah, for the shorter version of Watkins Glen, the NASCAR Cup Series version of Watkins Glen. This is where those guys are going to race on this weekend in real life. But we're here for the virtual SBO Network's American Muscle Series on the virtual Watkins Glen here. And these guys are about to tear this racetrack up. You talk about exciting racing when it comes to the SBO Network's American Muscle Series, and you talk about tracks that deliver exciting racing, look no further than this racetrack right here. We've seen what this track does to this series in the past, and the drivers, they all just turn it on when they come here, but the leaders are going to start to back away from the iRacing safety vehicle as they head towards turn 6, a field of 35 Ford Mustangs, 34 in this rolling start right now, and through turn 7, the iRacing safety car is going to dive to the safety of the pit lane up there, and under the Go Bowling Bridge, these guys will come. Foot's ready on the gas pedals as the green flag is in the air, and we're racing here at Watkins Glen. Aaron Nam already getting clear of Wayne Castile, who ducks back in line. Somebody might try and be brave in turn 1, though. It looks like Scotty Banks back there has his nose out in front of Robert Hartley when they get towards turn 1. So far, everybody makes it through there clean, and it looks like Robert Hartley might try and take away third place, but Scotty Banks still has his nose out front as they head up towards the S's for the first time in this heat here. Scotty Banks is going to have the advantage to the second slight corner, but Wayne Castile is going to have the advantage to possibly take the lead with the slipstream here down this back straightaway for the first time. Aero Nom easily guarding the inside, nowhere for Wayne Castile to go. He's going to look to the outside. Aero Nom is going to have a bit of an inferior turn in, and it looks like the 166 and the 299 are under investigation for probably some contact, maybe into turn number 1 there, but everybody through the bus stop clean so far and into the carousel for the first lap here tonight.
Clean at the moment, though there has been some form of an issue with Mike Taylor that we're just about to have a look at, Alex, and it's not come up on my screen yet, so I'll assume it has for you. Oh, here it is, finally. The move from Mike Taylor, and just look in the background here, still what's happened. This, I assume, is what is under investigation as they snake on through. As, well, I didn't really see much there, but we're back.
I saw it. I can paraphrase for you. It looked like the 166 car. It looked like he got caught on the curb a little bit and then spun around back on track and into the 299. So for me, it looked like a racing deal, but Race Control is going to have a thorough look at that to determine if anyone is worthy of a penalty after that incident. Yeah, to me, it looked like a racing incident, but we shall see here as Wayne Castile...
And they've said it's no further action at the moment.
Okay, so no further action on it at the moment. Thank you for that, Tom. And it looks like Wayne Castile going for a second bite at the cherry here into the bus stop. Yep, no further action there at the top of your screen, and it looks like Wayne Castile's tried to keep his nose in there through the second part of the bus stop, but Aero Nom does a beautiful job defending that there. And it looks like Scotty Banks looking to the outside for a bit of extra momentum off this corner. You can see everybody running a little bit lower than he was here as we get a great rear bumper camera of Scotty Banks here. Now you're going to possibly see what the draft does to these cars. Is that 51 car back there is just going to crawl a little bit closer as they break into turn 6 here. Looks like onto the grass a little bit of these two drivers here, and then down into turn number 7 to round off lap number 2 here. And Aero Nom still leads them back to the stripe here, but it looked like Wayne Castile got a much superior exit there. He's really closing the gap down this front straightaway, gets his nose out front. By the time they get down to turn number 1 and Aero Nom has to back off, Wayne Castile takes the lead for the first time tonight.
It was on the brakes. It was Aero Nom heading through the final corner. I think he just overshot it and had to basically back out of the corner in order to not career himself into the wall, and Wayne Castile is able to say thank you very much, I will take that all day long. But now Aero Nom is going to try and get back at Castile, not if Scotty Banks has anything to do with it, of course. Banks is going to switch to the inside now, uses the draft of Aero Nom and of course Wayne Castile in the front, and unable to really find any room for a manoeuvre, and Aero Nom rather saved by the draft of the car ahead of him, and I imagine looking to use his superior pace.
Yeah, and he currently is using that to his advantage here as Aero Nom's going to get another try at it here as they head towards turn 6 for the third time tonight here. He's right on the back bumper, but decides against a move into turn 6. Just wasn't close enough there. But it looks like Wayne Castile goes a little bit wide here. This could open up the door if Wayne Castile doesn't keep it clean through this final corner. But it looks like the 3 car gets a better drive off here. And actually, it looked like the 3 car, I don't know if that was just my eyes playing tricks on me, but I thought I saw the 3 car just check up just a little bit there, heading through the last corner, but it looks like he's going to maintain the lead through the first corner. Now they're 2 by 2 there as Robert Hartley trying to get around Scotty Banks here, but it looks like Wayne Castile maintains first position. Robert Hartley there still trying to go for a move. He still has his nose in there. These two are going to go side by side down the back straightaway. Unless Hartley falls back into line, not able to get anything done. There's Luis Henriquez is right on the back bumper of Hartley, almost pushing him down this straightaway. As these 2 cars side by side, that's Eric Ronenberg trying to go for a move into the bus stop. Almost makes contact with the guardrail, but it looks like as they head into the carousel, onto the grass a little bit, Eric Ronenberg is going to take that position away, and now Jay Bass is going to look for an opportunity to get around Luis Henriquez to move himself further in front of Mike Puchik, who is currently back there in 10th.
Here is the move again, just slots back in. There's a move further back. Michael Buchik trying to go for a move. It's a very audacious opportunity. Unable to quite get it, though he's he goes a little bit deep, Puchek, as I apologise, it's Fletcher just behind him that's trying to go for the move on the man who is in the Challenger class in Puchek, and Puchek just holding on for the moment despite looking perhaps a little bit shaky through that final section. In fact, he's pulled out quite an extensive gap, hasn't he, on Fletcher, 5/10 of a second. The fastest lap of the race actually going to Matt Malone, a 1:20.4, and I can tell you that was probably enough for pole position, as Matt Malone absolutely racing along at the moment. Just shows how powerful the slipstream is around this circuit, Alex.
Yes, he's currently right on the back bumper of Matthew Thompson in front of him, and this is where a bit of strategy with the heat racing format could come into play here, with the top 10 getting inverted and your results being taken from the second heat. Matt Malone could be thinking that if he just rides back in line there in P9, and if he finishes in P9, he'll automatically move himself up into second for the second heat race, and just be able to maintain that spot here as we go on board with Aeronam, getting a pretty nice exit off the carousel. It's better than Castile's in front of him. He gets a good draft run down this back straightaway, or down this short chute, I should say. It's not really the back straightaway, but down into turn number 6, they come for the 5th time tonight. It looks like Aeronam, it looks like Wayne is just pulling a little bit of a gap here. It looks like Castile is just a little bit faster here as they head through the last corner to take lap 6. And I know how fast Aeronam is. You know how fast Aeronam is, Tom. Everybody watching this and everybody racing knows how fast Aeronam is, but it looks like by Wayne Castile and Matt Malone setting fastest laps, and Wayne Castile going a little bit faster than him here, do you think Aeronam is being outshone a little bit?
No, I think he's in control of this one. I think he knows when he wants to be leading this race and doesn't want to be the one who's punching that hole into the air. I think he knows that at the moment he's in a pretty nice spot in that he can overtake essentially when he wants to. Look at how much he's hounding. He's not got much pressure from Scotty Banks behind him, and now it looks like there might be a hint of a chance for Aeronam. Not able to find anything at the moment. Just needs a little bit extra braking performance, perhaps. But I think he's definitely in control here. He knows when he's going to go for a full attack, and he is only 0.3 of a second. He can pull this back as soon as he likes. I think he's essentially sitting behind it, knowing what he's doing.
As he currently sits back there in second, but Jay Bast here is our only Challenger class driver, almost only Challenger driver in the top 10. There's Michael Puchek still hanging 1 second off the tail of Matthew Thompson, who has lost his position to Matt Malone behind him, and Jay Bast doing really well for himself in that Challenger class, holding right onto the tail of Luis Henriquez, the first pro driver in front of him. So doing a great job, as I think, judging off the timing tower, Matthew Gazenda might have made a little bit of a mistake there, but so far a great job tonight for this 153 car.
Great job indeed, as we see a replay.
Looks like this is Guzenda here in the 52 car. Looks like there's one car going wide out there. Not sure who that is. That's the 101 car. I'm not sure who, and it looks like trying to rejoin the track. Gets a little bit too wide and ends up forcing Guzenda into the wall. Looks like a bit of a racing deal, but I would reckon race control would say otherwise. Maybe a bit of an unsafe rejoin there from that 101 car. It looks like that was Mike Nickham here. So we take a look at the amateur leader here, Mike Thompson, way in front of his closest. Apologies, I was saying Matthew. It is Mike Thompson, currently in P9, the only amateur driver in the top 10 and almost in the top 15 for that matter.
There's been an issue for Wayne Castile, the race leader. And Scotty Banks is into the lead of the race. Wayne Castile has spun around. And now Scotty Banks into the lead of the race. Aeronam into second. I think he might have a little bit of damage here because he's under pressure from Ronenberg as well. And Ronenberg's actually going to get through on Aeronam. So he's gone from first to third. He's still trying to hang on here. Alex, down into turn 1. Aeronam just about having to avoid. He hasn't got the slipstream, I don't think, just yet. He's managed to just keep his nose ahead. Aeronam in the end. And he's able to stay in second position, but Scotty Banks has been given the lead of the race.
I am speechless as to what just happened there, and Castile is going to have some work to do if he wants the invert to work in his favor here. This is going down the short chute. Aeronom looks for a move to the outside here. Looks like the car's just coming closer and closer together, and they just meet in the middle at some point. Castile goes sliding through turn 6 and ends up just spinning, has to back up and pull back into the field for a safe rejoin to count there in that number 3 car, and that just looks like they met in the middle, but very unfortunate for those guys, and not just unfortunate for him, as it looks like Jay Bass back there. If that was the driver I was saying correctly, yes it is, got a bit of front bumper damage from that, maybe involved in a little bit of a checkup situation when these guys had to avoid Wayne Castile, and everybody had to check up to slow down to not make any contact with each other, and it looks like Jay Bass just unfortunately ends up with a bit of front end damage, and you can see how much it's hurting these guys.
Absolutely all on Wayne Castile, I'm afraid to say, from my perspective. That particular incident, just didn't see that Aeronom was pressing him on the right hand side and just chopped across him essentially from the camera angle that we saw, and I don't think it's a 15-second post-race penalty for number 101. Who is number 101? I'm trying to look through the field as it's Nickham I'm hearing. Here is the move from Aeronom on Scotty Banks around the outside. He's going to get it. He's back to the lead of the race, Aeronom.
Yeah, and a great move by him as they head towards into the bus stop, and we're already rounding or close to minute 12 of this race, so only around 8 minutes left in this race, and that's going to give us probably, I would assume, maybe around 6 or 7 more laps with these guys, but you never know. There's a look like Jay Bass goes wide back there, but Scotty Banks is going to have a look to the inside into turn 6 here. He's going to get side by side with Aeronom to try and retake the lead here as they head towards turn 7, but Aeronom's going to have the advantage here, and Ronenberg could also look for a move, but it looks like Scotty Banks
on the brakes.
Yeah, Scotty Banks, although still looking for a move, and it looks like we have an incident between the number 2, the number 8, and the 53 cars that is currently under investigation, but Scotty Banks takes the lead.
Yes, again on the brakes into that final corner. Aeronom trying to make sure he wasn't putting himself into the wall, and now he's going to have it all to do to get back past Scotty Banks. Only a 1/10 of a second. The top 3 are really quite close together. Hartley is well back compared to these guys. There's now Aeronom, almost like a NASCAR race. He's trying to open up that second lane, but unfortunately Ronenberg isn't going to go with him. He's bump drafting Scotty Banks down the straight, and now can he just about send one around the outside? Aeronom, he can't quite at the moment. He's going to have to wait yet another lap.
And it looks like we have a replay here. This is Scott Brooks in the number 100 car here, I believe, for the Challenger class. It looks like he's heading down the back straightaway into the bus stop. You see 2 cars braking early in front of him, and then no, that's Wayne Castile behind him. Looked like just overshot the corner behind another car, sends Scott Brooks, or wow, I can't speak English, sends Scott Brooks right into the tire wall. And if I'm honest, I think race control is not going to be too happy about that one.
As we see Aeronom back to the outside, trying to make the move. Is he going to get it down into turn 1? It looks like he might just have the braking performance. Has he got the grip as well? Aeronom, he's not. He's pushed all the way onto that green, that orange and red curbing, and just about unable to do it. There's a disappearing. Oh, it's a disappearing Eric Ronenberg, and now Aeronom has been sent into a little bit of a half spin. He's down in 3rd position now and having to lick his wounds.
Yeah, but a fantastic save from his part, and while we have a little bit of a break in the action, we're going to go to our first sponsor read of the night, and it's going to be Gunfire Games, who are the developers of the recently released title Remnant from the Ashes, which is available for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation platforms. Enter for a chance to win a key for your own copy of Remnant from the Ashes by using the link in the stream description down below. That giveaway will close tonight after this stream, so make sure you enter into that before it's too late and get your hands on Remnant from the Ashes. Scotty Banks still leading this race. There's Eric Ronenberg is going to have a shot at the lead through turn 7 and back onto the pit straight. Now Aeronom is going to have a bit of work to do. He still has drafting help from Robert Hartley, and I saw while you were talking, Tom, that I saw that the 2.8 and a 1:53, the incident between those three cars was deemed no further investigation by rule of a racing incident, but one of them might have been given a unsafe rejoin for, actually it was the 8 car of Lewis Henriquez who was given a post-race review for an unsafe rejoin. So see if we can get a replay on that. I'm not sure what could have happened to those guys, but Eric Ronenberg here, he's going to have a shot at taking the lead, but right now, just sitting on the back bumper of Scotty Banks. Now he pulls to the outside, heading towards the bus stop here. And it looks like they jump over the curbs, and Scotty Banks still maintains the lead of this race.
Such a shame that Aeronam is going to have to settle for third position at the moment because of a little bit of what was clearly netcode, as unfortunately Ronenberg was disappearing, and it just upset Nam a little bit and cost him quite dearly. 7 tenths of a second back now. Ronenberg, though, suddenly pressing for the race lead. He's probably the biggest benefactor from his own connection to the iRacing surface, and it's going to help him try and win this race. Of course, you can't really give him a penalty. Not really his fault, as we're seeing a couple of takers for the pit stops, which I'm not sure is exactly ideal. On board with Ronenberg, though, and down into turn 1. Look at how much he's revving that engine into 4th gear and just getting a better loop through turn 1. Has he got the rest of it, though, on Scotty Banks? Has he got the straight line speed? It is an open setup series, so he could have taken a little bit of wing off, but I'm being told that essentially everyone is running the same setup. Here comes Ronenberg on board with him to the outside. Is he going to be able to get past Scotty Banks on this occasion? He is well alongside. Now it's all going to be about breaking into this corner. He's going to have the inside line for the second bit of the chicane. He's going to get to the lead of the race. Eric Ronenberg.
Fantastic car control from both drivers to allow a move to be made through the bus stop without an incident being created. But while those two went side by side in the bus stop, you're seeing 2 more Mustangs creep into frame there right behind these guys. That's Aeronam, who has closed that gap, and Robert Hartley following him to do it down into turn number 6 to enter the final 2.5 minutes of Heat 1 here on lap 13 so far. About to enter lap 14 as they head through turn 7 and under the Go Bowling Bridge to do it all over again here. Aeronam peeking out of line to look for a move on Scotty Banks, but Scotty is still going to have the draft on Eric Ronenberg, so I'm not sure. They're going to be pretty even by the time they get to turn number 1. Aeronam has the advantage going into that corner, but it looks like Scotty Banks is going to get a bit of a better run off the corner, but it looks like Aeronam has taken second place back, and now he has his eyes set on the lead.
Absolutely, he has just about used Ronenberg and Scotty Banks' battle to his advantage, as Hartley now trying to pressurise Banks and get him out of those podium positions. Look at how defensive Ronenberg is going. I think he's actually letting Aeronam through, and is he letting Aeronam through? No, he's not. It looked like he was for a moment, but I think he realised that Scotty Banks was there, and I wonder if he was just trying to apologise for that netcode and then pulled out of it, if that was actually a genuine mistake.
Yeah, and it looked like we had another under investigation notice, and it was the 203 car, and I believe the number 100 car, which would be Scott Brooks there in P8 in the Challenger class. And then it would be the 203 car. Not sure who the 203 car is there. So looks like Aeronam is going to have a shot at the lead here. He gets a better exit. And it looks like the 213 car gets a post-race penalty. I might have misread that wrong. It was the 213 car instead of the 203 car. So 20 seconds. But for the 213 car, but it's the white flag here for the first heat here as Eric Ronenberg and Aeronam side by side for it. Aeronam gets a better run off the corner and takes the lead going up into the S's. So now these guys have to get single file if they want to give themselves a shot at it. But both of them, both Scotty Banks and Eric Ronenberg, are keeping their feet in a great chopper angle to see what these guys are thinking down this back straightaway. Ronenberg has the draft over Scotty Banks, but it looks like Aeronam is just keeping them equal as they head into the bus stop for the last time in Heat 1. And those two going side by side is going to give Aeronam a better exit here, but Eric Ronenberg is going to have to keep his foot in it. He'll have one last shot down the back straightaway here as they exit the carousel for the last time in the first heat. And it looks like Eric Cronenberg, I'm not sure if he's close enough to get a move done, already around halfway down this short shoot. And Aero Nam goes from a netcode incident almost spinning out, and he ends up getting back to the lead. Cronenberg not close enough to do it. And Aero Nam comes off the last corner to win Heat 1 here for the SBO Network's American Muscle Series.
And Scotty Banks just about edging out Hartley by 900ths of a second. And an incredible first race right down to the wire. Mike Thompson wins in the amateur division. Jay Bast wins in the challenger division. I know we had a little bit of support for him in the YouTube chat as well. And that was a superb race. And I think it probably is about time we go to another sponsor read, Alex, as we get ready for Heat 2, excuse me.
Yeah, now we're going to check out the Simpit now that Heat 1 is over, and on your guys' side you should see the trophies that the Simpit was able to make for the SBO Network's American Muscle Series last season. And the Simpit makes high quality 3D printed trophies for this series, and they have been kindly provided by the Simpit. The Simpit is a website, a video show, and a community built for sim racers to find information about our hobby. The ultimate purpose of the Simpit is to make sim racers faster and more informed. Search for the Simpit on YouTube or check out their website at https://thesimpit.com. And then another / to end that off. And then once again, that's https://thesimpit.com/. And so again, a big thank you to the Simpit for supplying the SBO Network's American Muscle Series with amazing trophies for them to hand out to their drivers at season's end. But Heat 1 has come to a close here, and it was an exciting close at that, with Aero Nam taking the lead on the last lap into turn number 1 here, as we have a bit of a 5-minute warm-up for these guys just to drive around and get a little bit of last-minute practice in. And it looks like there was a post-race review that we did miss, and that was between the 18 and 42 cars. If I am not mistaken, I want to say that was David Clymer in the 42, and then I'm not sure who was in the 18, but looks like incidents all around. That was Brian Howard in the 18, sorry about that, and just incidents all around the track for these guys.
Yes, and a good opportunity now to just get back into the rhythm of things. You can sometimes, it sounds stupid, almost forget how to drive the track normally when you've been in the tow for so long. Just get back in tune with the car, particularly some of these guys that perhaps didn't have a particularly good first race. Just get yourself back into things and get yourself cooled down as well, because 20 minutes isn't a short time to be driving. But I think the most important thing here is going to be for the likes of Aero Nam, who now have got to scythe their way back through the field from 10th. They've probably got to make sure that their racing lines and everything are all sorted. And as well, someone like Aero Nam, he'll be faster than the majority of the people who are ahead of him. So it's going to be difficult for him to judge all of his braking points and things. It's probably ever so slightly earlier for some of the people that are behind him, given how much faster he is than most people.
Yeah, and speaking of Aero Nam, it looks like we are going to be able to pull him in for an interview after the Heat 1 win. Aero, you went from almost being out of contention there due to a netcode incident up through the S's, and you end up taking the win. How was that drive there?
It was terrifying, especially getting hit twice there. And so fast place, I was all over the place. The wheel was just jerking in my hand.
Yeah, and you did a great job, but the only downside to winning the first heat is now you're going to end up starting P10 for the second heat. So what's your plan on how to make it back through the field to try and put yourself in contention to sweep both heats here tonight?
I think the first one is to make the lap 1. I think one race we had, we didn't even make the lap turn 1, so the start is important.
Yeah, and obviously you're going to have to drive through a lot slower traffic compared to yourself here. So, I mean, how are you preparing yourself for that drive through the field? I mean, You mentioned the start. I mean, that can't be the only difficult thing there. It's just going to be a 20-minute war of attrition, no?
Yeah, it's looking forward and looking back. So yeah, it will be very, very difficult. But we have 20 minutes, so let's see.
All right, well, we're going to drag you back into the waiting rooms. Good luck in Heat 2, and congrats on the Heat 1 win.
Thank you.
That was Aeronom, the winner of the Heat 1, starting P10 in the second heat, and he's going to have a lot of work to do to get back to the field.
Yes, a bit of work, but a lot of the drivers will have started sim racing in the likes of MX5s, or perhaps in other games and things they might have been doing Formula cars, and often there's reverse grid races there. So I don't suppose that for the likes of Aeronom it's going to be too difficult for him in terms of trying to get his way back through the field. It won't be easy, of course, but I'm not too sure it will be the greatest challenge in the world for him. It won't be anything that he's uncomfortable with, I think, is the point. So I just want to head down to the YouTube chat for a moment, and Taylor Andrews supporting Jay Bast, who I believe actually won in the race, says everyone did a great job, great race. It was certainly an entertaining race one. And do we have time for another ad read, Alex? I can go through the SPO networks quickly.
I think we do. If you would want to do that, go ahead.
So SPO Networks is the title sponsor of the American Muscle Series for this season, and they are actively exploring potential acquisitions and opportunities in diversified industries, including solid waste, scrap metal recycling, and demolition, with special race remediation. Additionally, the SPO maintains the belief that patients and customers have a right to high quality, economical, and clinically validated cannabis products. Towards this, SPO aims at medical and recreational cannabis and genetic seed operation, with the expectation of rapid expansion of the cannabis industry, as I could just about speak English by the end of that. For more information, you can go to spoinow.com. Here's the grid, Alex.
Yeah, and now we're going to go through the grid for the second race here tonight. Wayne Castile, actually, I think they did invert the top 10, so Wayne Castile goes from P10, ends up climbing those 5 positions, and goes from P10 to P1 here in the second heat, and it's going to be difficult for anybody to get back up to him. Jesse Hodgson ends up in second after the invert. Michael Puchik gets himself into third. Mike Thompson ends up there in fourth. Jay Bass stays right there in fifth place. When you're in fifth, you don't invert at all, so Jay Bass just sit there chilling in fifth. Still, Matt Malone ends up rounding down 2 places into sixth. Robert Hartley ends up in seventh. Scotty Banks in eighth. Eric Ronenberg in ninth, and Aeronom, he's going to have what is essentially a last to first challenge down there after inverting to P10 as the cars start to roll off the grid, and the second race and final race tonight is about to get underway.
Aeronom really with it to do. As I said, it shouldn't be anything that he's particularly uncomfortable with coming through iRacing over the years, and I can tell you that Aeronom has got a decent I rating of 7,000, by far the most in the field. So as I said, this should be something he's relatively comfortable with. The question is whether there's going to be another few factors at play. This is an opportunity as well for Wayne Castile, who's in that fortunate position of being fast enough to challenge for the race win in race one. Having an incident now, he's got all this time to have slower people behind him pull out a gap and essentially hope that by the time Aeronom and the fellow challengers who are in contention for this race, hopefully he's out of sight by the time they get past the rest of the field.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a pretty interesting race. And as they headed through the bus stop on the final pace lap here tonight, the tension, I would say, just looms over the racetrack, because Wayne Castile, we know he's fast enough to keep up and get around Aeronom here. So if these guys want to have a shot at him, they have to climb through the field quickly. But we could also see drivers like Jesse Hodgson and Michael Puchik get around him as well here. So it's going to be a very interesting race, no doubt, to see who could possibly take a shot at Wayne Castile up there, or potentially make their way through the field like these three guys back here, Scotty Banks, Eric Ronenberg, and Aaron Nom, to take the win once again here in the SBO Network's American Muscle Series. But through the final two corners they come as tension looms over this 2.5 mile long circuit. And what a circuit it is indeed here. As for the second and final time tonight, the iRacing safety car is going to dive to the safety of the pit lane up in front of you. There it goes. And now it's all up to the drivers. And it looks like they're going early. Wayne Castile steps on it, and he's away. Jesse Hodson is still side by side there with Michael Puchik, I do think there. And these guys are going to go side by side, 2 by 2, down into turn number 1. They're 3 wide back there for a little bit. I'm not sure who that was. That might have been Aaron Nom stepping out of line. No, that was the driver in front of him, Scotty Banks back here.
Oh, dear!
A big accident back there. It was Matt Malone trying to take P5 here. We're going to see if we can get a replay on that. That looked like a big hit into the outside tire wall here. This is Chuck Lebano back here in the 202 car, braking into turn number 1. Everything going smooth so far. He exits the corner, and I'm not sure what could have happened here. Oh, he got tagged from behind, ends up coming across the nose of another car, and that's a big hit into the guardrail, and that's going to take him out of this race. But Wayne Castile already starting to try and pull a gap on Jesse Hodson behind him, who has another Challenger class competitor right behind him, and Michael Puchik, with the first amateur driver for a while of Mike Thompson, I think that is. Yeah, it's Mike Thompson back
7 cars from the race, Alex.
For a while.
7 cars wiped out of the race immediately, and here's another reason why. 2 incidents clearly then at the start of this race, and this was just, oh dear, a little bit avoidable, a little bit of a squeeze on, and plenty cars being spewed across the road, and 7 now out. But look at Wayne Castile, he is absolutely gone. 7/10 of a second after lap 1, just wants to get within that sort of, or after that second margin to try and just break the slipstream. Already it will be less and less powerful. Wayne Castile absolutely flying into the sunset here, and he's got 20 minutes, well 18 more minutes now, to try and just keep hammering away at these lap times. Surely by the time that Scotty Banks, Aaron Nom, Matt Malone have got their way through this Challenger and Amateur pack, surely he's going to be too far into the distance.
I don't know if Jesse Hodson can get his head in the game. He could have a good string of laps here to try and get in front, but we can't ignore the cars behind these guys. But they could be stuck in a draft train. Here's Matt Malone, a very threatening driver in this field. There is Scotty Banks, Aaron Nom, and Robert Hartley, as well as Eric Ronenberg right behind him here as we see Matt Malone. Looks like he has an opportunity there right on the back bumper of the 215 car. Almost able to read what would be the license plate there. But it looks like he just sits in line for now. Doesn't want to risk that number 83 Mustang too early. But it looks like he might have to if he wants to catch up to Wayne Castile there. And it looks like another incident on track is the 42 and 298 cars under investigation for what I suppose is an incident.
As we've got a replay of David Stevenson, Alex. Stevenson, I apologise. I'm being corrected in my ear. Is down into turn 1. I think the car might have just kicked out on him. Let's see, it has kicked out on him. He's just on the throttle application. I think used a little bit too much curb, perhaps bottomed out a little bit. And unfortunately, that is his race over. He's into the pit, so he becomes the 8th casualty of the day so far. Here is Hartley trying to make a move on Aaron Nom. Aaron Nom trying to make a move on Scotty Banks, who's trying to make a move on Jay Bast. So it's all kicking off at the moment as we approach the 4th minute of this race, the 5th minute of this race even.
Yeah, and Jesse Hodson still ever slowly, little by little, falling behind Wayne Castile up there, who currently is, just like you said, driving off into the sunset. So if you're guys like Matt Malone back here, or Matthew Thompson, or even Michael Puchik up there in 3rd, you got to try and make a move soon. You would at least think you have to try and make a move soon to try and chase down that 3 car. But Scotty Banks is around back there, and that's going to really hurt his chances here tonight as Wayne Castile sets the fastest lap And it's another incident in the final two corners. It looked like Banks was trying to make a move on J Bast into turn 6 here. He came through turn 6 quite nicely there, nothing wrong. And then, ooh, it looks like he caught a little bit of grass there, yeah, into turn 7, no damage. A very easy mistake to make and a very costly one at that. And currently Matt Malone 2x2 here with these guys. Matt Malone going for 4th, Aeronom going for 6th here, and Aeronom's going to get a push from Robert Hartley here. Is Matt Malone trying to side draft for his life to try and get around Matthew Thompson here? They both go side by side into the bus stop. They stay side by side out of the bus stop. Matt Malone gets the run through the carousel, and as the brakes just get blipped on every little car, Matt Malone takes P4, but Aeronom and that's J Bast in 7th, still going at it.
They are still going at it, as we see further back. Here's the number 153 of J Bast leading the way in Challenger. He could essentially pull over and let these guys through at the moment. He'll still get the Challenger victory, so it's just about keeping out of trouble for him.
No, he has 2 Challenger cars in front of him there, actually.
Oh, he has, so I apologise. It's because of the Sea of Pro. I'm not used to the reverse grid, but he'll still get the 3rd place. So actually, a little bit more of a motivation for him to start battling here. The question is, how can he battle someone like Aeronom, who is essentially working with Hartley here, which I find quite interesting. Oh, I say that, and he's immediately it's the wall is Hartley, and it's a huge issue for Thompson as well. And there's more cars strewn across the road. You can hear the crunch of carbon fibre, whatever these cars are made of, as Howard and Clymer also having an issue, I think. I'm not sure if that was related, and we're going to get a replay, and here is what happened with Hartley. I suggest from the first look that it might have been another bottom out on the curb moment. Here's what's going on. It's under investigation, and Hartley just got tapped, I think, and then went round, and he did well to avoid everyone fully onto the brakes. And then it was a separate incident from Thompson ahead that took out a couple more cars. Hartley's back going, but I'm not too sure Hartley's going to be able to keep going for too long here. The left side of that car is looking rather poorly indeed. Here is it again. This is from Brian Howard's perspective as he heads down into turn 1, just about avoids the incident, does well, and actually it was a further tag at the back of the field, and then Howard was caught in it as well. That puts him out of the race. So it was actually all the cars trying to avoid Hartley ended up tripping over each other again.
As Wayne Castile continues to pull a gap on the field, we're going to go to another sponsor read real fast, and this time it's going to be for Brandon Carl, who on your side, you should see him. He's currently P3 in the amateur class. You should see a view live from his Twitch stream. So the amateur division is generously brought to you by one of our own amateur drivers, Brandon Carl, and his Twitch channel, BCXCarl. Go show some support and give him a follow at www.twitch.tv/BCXCarl. That's www.twitch.tv/BCXCarl. So a big thank you to him for sticking his neck out and giving us 3 exciting classes to watch here in the SVO Network's American Muscle Series in that number 277 car, and currently doing a great job for himself there in P3 for the amateur division.
He is actually, Brandon. Yes, Brandon Cole. He's really been quite the consistent one. Won the race the last time out in the amateur division, of course, in Bathurst. So ever so slightly a little bit lucky on his part, which is no criticism, of course, as he was there and he capitalised on the misfortunes of others, which is always very, very nice indeed. Here's a move from Matt Malone, trying to get a move on the 83 car, no, on the number 1 car of Aeronom. He gets through into second position in the class, the pro class, the top class of this series. He's through on Aeronom, and now I think really they've just got to battle it amongst themselves, because 3 seconds is the gap to Wayne Castile ahead, and they've got a fair few cars ahead of them. Look at that gap that Wayne Castile has pulled out. He's done exactly what I said he needed to do.
Yeah, and so far he's doing a good job at that. And here we have a replay of the amateur driver of Jeff Besnard here, up through the S's there in that beige pink Mustang. They head up into the back straightaway. It looks like he's doing okay so far. And ooh, a bit of netcode there into Tom went there. Massive incident for those two drivers, and that takes them both out of this race. There's another car almost involved, having to duck dive. I messed up the dodgeball quote. We're gonna abandon that one as Wayne Castile continues to pull away from the field a little bit. And it looks like we have another replay on Chris Schultes here down the back straightaway. He's in the 299 car behind. I'm not sure who that is in front of him. And oh, a bit of contact with the car in front of him sends him around, almost drifts it around through the bus stop. No harm, no foul, no damage to that Mustang. And judging off the front bumper of that Mustang, is a little surprised by that. What I'm going with was an attempted outbraking maneuver there, and it's all just gone wrong for him. But looks like he's kept it together. But a bit of damage to the front end of Aeronama and a bit of damage to the rear bumper of Matt Malone. I think you can probably guess what happened there.
Yes, and a little bit of an update on the 201 and the 2 and the 215 incident, as Aeronama has got a bit of damage indeed, but I don't think it's going to harm him too much, as the race win perhaps a little bit off anyway. He's trying to get up into second position, which is something he's actually going to do through this corner, as Matt Malone just struggling with his damage ever so slightly, as it's going to be. A couple. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of race control messages, if you don't mind, Alex, because you've got an ever so slight backlog. The 2 and the 215, which is the Robert Hartley incident. That was a racing incident, so no further investigation, or as Randall's put it, racing incident. And the typo there from Randall. But anyway, the 201 and the 248. The 248 has got a pit stop penalty for the next race. So the 248 is as I look through the field, he's presumably out of this race, number 248. But yes, he's got a pit stop penalty, as he's got the incident responsibility for what happened there.
And it looks like Jeff Besnard is the 248 car for, that was the incident with him wrecking Tom Wendt. I don't want to say wrecking, but it was pretty much wrecking there as he was trying to wheel his car back onto the asphalt on the backstretch here, as we get a really nice view of an engine there, as that was Eric Ronenberg bump drafting Matt Malone down the back straight, and we get a nice view of the Ford Mustang engine, just showing you how close these guys are together here, as Eric Ronenberg inches ever so closer to Matt Malone out of the carousel here, and I think they're going to go side by side down the back straightaway here. Ooh, Matt Malone with a nice block there. Now we're getting a good look at the rear bumper of Matt Malone's car as the chase is on for Aeronam in the final 8 minutes of this race to try and catch up to Wayne Castile. You think he can do it?
No, frankly, I don't think he can. I think Wayne Castile is off into the distance, and I hate to be the downer, but I think we've got to be realistic about proceedings here, especially with that damage. I think Aeronam might just be a little bit out of this one. 4 seconds back to Wayne Castile. It's rather justice from Wayne Castile for the first race. And this is the one issue when it comes to reverse grid races, I'm afraid to say, is that if you have someone caught up in an incident in race 1, they then end up just absolutely flying away through the field heading into race 2. That being said, Ronenberg now is trying to make a move on Matt Malone, who's really struggling with his damage. I think he's got a little bit more damage than he would have expected. Here comes Ronenberg then. Is he going to be able to make the move? He's bump drafting down the straight, and I don't think he is going to make the move. I think he's trying to catch up to the rest of the field, because he knows Aeronam has also got damage.
Yeah, but Aeronam has already knocked 0.4 of a second out of that gap, and with 7 minutes remaining, he's going to have to make up, and if it were 8 minutes remaining, he would have to make up around a second every 2 minutes, and while that's going to be very difficult, he certainly is trying. That would be half a second every minute. He already is a little bit behind on that. And if he wants to keep up with that gap by minute 14 of this race, he needs to be 3 seconds away from Wayne Castile to make it work here. He's certainly going to try, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't think it's going to be enough. As they head down the front straightaway to round lap 11, Wayne Castile currently just running away with this at the moment. As real quick, we're going to take you to our final sponsor read of the day here tonight. And that's going to be Xtreme Scoring, which is a league management software, and it eliminates the need for spreadsheets and manual tracking of your driver's stats. With extensive multi-level scoring combinations and automated widgets, you can create a professional display for the drivers and fans of your series. Take your league scoring to a new level by visiting xtremescoring.info today. Once again, that's Xtreme Scoring, no E, just an X, xtremescoring.info. And back to the race here. Yeah, Matt Malone made a big move there. Now 2 cars side by side again back there. That was Jay Bast and Eric Ronenberg. And actually, I didn't even think about it, but we're watching the race for the Challenger class win. This is between Jay Bast, Michael Puchik, and Jesse Hodgson back there behind Eric Ronenberg. So a really close race for this fight. And there's also a close race a little bit further behind these guys rounding the carousel. Edgar Sancinelli and Dustin Ollis are going to end up going at it for the win of the amateur class here. As now we see Edgar Sancinelli, Dustin Ollis right behind him with a bit of a push from Luis Enriquez back there in P10 for the pro class. So really, we just have races all over the field here, but it looks like Luis Enriquez not wanting to stay behind Dustin Ollis. And it looks like Robert Hartley doesn't agree with it either, so now he's going for moves. It looks like there was a car doing a bit of a wheelie back there, just for some style points as they head down the front stretch again. That might be Clint Fletcher back there as these guys head into turn 1 once again here. And now, I thought we were going to have a race for the amateur class series, but now, adding those gaps up, Dustin Ollis, he's around 6/10 behind Edgar Sancinelli, but Edgar does have 2 pro class drivers behind him who are hungry to try and get some extra points here, and they are making moves down the back straightaway here. There's moves being made all over the place for the Challenger class as well. We're going to stick on this battle for now as they head into the bus stop. This is going to put Dustin Ollis and Edgar Sancinelli right on top of each other through the carousel, and Sancinelli's off. He's made a mistake. He's way off his line. He's going to let Scotty Banks through with that move. And Dustin Ollis takes the lead for the amateur class in the closing 4 minutes of this race. Disastrous late race mistake for Edgar Sancinelli. And there's still a battle going on for the Challenger class, as it looked like Jay Bass is trying to heel toe, maybe a little bit of drifting there to try and boost up the speed of that Mustang through turn 7. Maybe a little bit of Mario Kart action there, trying to get a spark from the tires for a little bit of a boost through turn 7, but he's not able to get around Michael Buchik. Just battles all over the field late in this race.
And I can tell you from experience, spark from the tyre is not the best way to go faster. Usually it's a one-way ticket to the barrier. But what has Edgar Sancinelli done to upset someone upstairs in the last couple of weeks? He got crashed out at Bathurst with essentially no fault of his own, and even though this one's a mistake on his own accord as well, not as well, but a mistake on his own accord, still, you have to feel for him. Jay Bast goes to the lead of the race in the Challenger division. He gets through on Puchik, though Puchik now is going to have to defend from Hodgson behind, and this is where it's going to get interesting, because if he is a Pats, which it looks like he's going to be with a little bit of rear end damage on that car, all of a sudden that gives Bast a huge bit of breathing room for this Challenger class race win. Look at the gap, 0.8 of a second, 1 second up to Ronenberg, so he hasn't got the benefit of the slipstream ahead of him, though they're battling, so he could do in a lap or 2. That being said, there's only a lap or 2 left in this race. What I'm trying to say is that Jay Bast looks like he might be taking the double here.
I think I might have commentators curse the gaps for the lead here, as currently Edgar Sancinelli 1.7 seconds behind Dustin Ollis here. So Dustin Ollis has a great bit of breathing room on his own accord to try and win this race. I like the smiley face helmet on Luis Enriquez's car. So you just see that as he breaks into turn number 1 here. But currently Dustin Ollis is very much in the clear for the moment. And so is Jay Bast over Jesse Hodgson here. So these guys, I mean, it looks like Jesse, he's going to have the benefit of the draft there. And that's something that Sancinelli doesn't have back there. 2 seconds behind Dustin Ollis. But Hodgson still has the draft. So he's definitely still in this race. He just needs a solid set of corners here. But I don't know if he's going to be able to get it in time, as these guys might be taking the white flag this lap. We're going to have to see what happens when they come back around to the start-finish line and see what Barney the Flagman is doing up there. As we take a look at Wayne Castile leading this race, we'll be able to see the flag stand from this angle, I do believe. Down to turn number 1. Yes, this is the white flag, so this is Hodgson's last chance. But Wayne Castile, it's his first chance to take the win, and now he just needs 2.5 more miles of clean racing and clean driving, and he'll have taken the win once again. But let's go back to the battle for the Challenger Series lead here. These guys are inching ever so closer together as Jesse Hodgson, it looks like pretty even for both of these guys on the exit here, and up through the S's for the last time here tonight. Hodgson, he has the advantage of the draft. I'm not sure if it'll be strong enough to draw him within 7/10.
No, not at all. And I do want to point out, as there's also a car in between the two of these, isn't there? Oh, no, there's not a car in between the two of them, but there is a car just a little bit ahead. He's just about got slipstream from Matt Malone ahead of him, has Jay Bast, which is going to help him a great deal. Now, I also want to point out something we can bring up in the post race as well. Look at Aero Nom, how much of a gap he's pulled out on Ronenberg. He has been absolutely electric with a damaged car in the final 5 minutes or so to try and catch up to Wayne Castile. It's all going to be in vain, though, and it looks like Castile's going to win, Alex.
Yeah, Aeronam tried as best as he could to pull off the last to first challenge, but the first to first challenge is completed for Wayne Castile. Started first, finishes first in the final race of the day here for the SBO Network's American Muscle Series. Jay Bast is going to be able to hold off Jesse Hodgson to win the race. Dustin Ollis, after Edgar Sancinelli makes a really unfortunate mistake for himself, takes the win over a dominating driver here in a pretty unique way, and he takes the win in the amateur class. Amazing job from Dustin Ollis. I would say he would have had that win anyway. He was doing a great job back there in the 244 car. Amazing racing from everybody as they're still racing to the line. That was Matthew Guzenda and Martin Bork behind him here. As here's another car, Chris Schulte's coming across the line, as we do have 3 more cars left to cross the line. The 18 car, the 221, and the 215 car. This is Eric Hardiman as he heads through the final corner for the final time, really on the rev limiter there. He's going to bring it across the line in the top 10 for the amateur class. Great job from him. And rounding the final corner, Mike Thompson ends up 11th in class. Great job from him tonight. Again, nothing to be ashamed of. And I think these guys are going to put on a bit of a post-race show for us as they are still coming around the track. You think we might see something like what they did at Bathurst, but instead they're going to full throttle turn 1 here maybe as they start to pull around the final corner. Now they're going to bring it into the pits. I was hoping we could get another post-race show like that, but everybody brings it into the pits and just a fantastic race from everybody.
Absolutely, and we'll get the provisional results at the moment. A couple of post-race penalties are going to perhaps be applied. There's a couple of investigations going on. Let me just try and have a look. The 101 and the number 202 are under investigation with a post-race decision. That's the only one I can see at the moment. The 117 after race 1 is going to be a post-race review as well. So we've got a small issue with the results because we believe the heat. So we'll just skip on that one and go to the interviews. Alex, and shall we drag in Wayne Castile first?
Yeah, sure. We can drag in Wayne Castile, the winner of the day, completes the first to first challenge there for himself. So Wayne, I mean, it was a pretty up and down day for you. I mean, he got involved in an incident through turn 6 there in the first heat, ended up falling back to 15th, and you clawed back 5 positions to get the perfect invert spot to pull out a 3-second gap on the field to win the race. How was it out there?
You know what? That was probably the hardest I've had to drive in a very long time. You know, I was battling Eero there in the heat race, the first race, and we were back and forth, and unfortunately I didn't give him enough room there towards the end of the lap and got spun, and I'm like, well, crap, let's just try to get as many positions back as we possibly can. And I totally forgot about the invert. I just happened to look and they said about the invert. I'm like, oh, well, that's perfect. And it happened to work out perfect for me. And I'm like, all right, well, I need to run away as fast as humanly possible because I know Eero, Matt, Scotty, those guys, they're going to come right through that field as fast as humanly possible. I'm like, I need to make as much of a gap as I can. And luckily, I was able to do it.
And can I just ask, Wayne, how important was it for you after that race start, after you had that disappointing race one with the spin? How important was it for you to get that gap and go to get that victory? Let me rephrase the question because I've sort of tripped over my words there. How important was that first couple of laps where you got that gap in order to secure the victory?
Well, here with Watkins, especially with this layout, a gap is so important. These Mustangs are very, very good in draft. You can actually begin to draft anywhere between 1.5 and 1.7 seconds of a gap. So I knew the moment that I got outside of that, I was golden, and I just needed to make a clean race. So that was the biggest thing I had to do there, is just slowly build a gap every single lap to the point where I wasn't getting any more draft from the guys behind me, and just kind of walk away from them as fast as humanly possible.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy the victory in race 2.
Yeah, real quick, guys, I just want to thank my sponsors, Muradness, for all the coaching they give me, Stu and Dan over there, Oceana Coffee, and Ginger Liveries for the liveries that we have on our cars outside of the league. So thanks, guys.
Cheers, Wayne. And that was Wayne Castile, winner of the overall race in race 2. And are they allowed to shout out their personal sponsors? I don't think there's anyone keeping tabs.
I mean, I think we give them time to shout out whoever they want, so I think that's allowed. But Tom, I heard you wanted to ask him a few questions, so I'll drag in Jay Bast for you, the winner of the Challenger class. So Tom, take it away.
So, Jay, you got the double today. Just how good was the car and the setup working?
Oh, the car was fantastic. The setup was great from Finney. I'm just over the moon. You know, I did not expect to sweep both races. Had some really tough fights in both races. The second race was definitely a little, let's say, less clean. So apologies for those contacts, but I was just hanging on, and I made a couple moves at the bus stop towards the end there, and was able to bring it home. So, as I said, over the moon. Thank you so much to Randall for setting everything up, and you guys for an awesome broadcast, and my beautiful girlfriend behind me supporting me the whole way. And yeah, I'm ecstatic.
And how difficult was it to keep out of trouble in that hectic race 2, and race 1 for that matter?
Yeah, extremely hectic. You know, cars, you have to look maybe 6 cars ahead of you in some of these trains because the draft just keeps everybody so close together. And the talent in this field means that we could just drive in formation for 5, 6, 10 laps at a time. And obviously there's some contact in there at some point, but you know, it's really so much fun. I have so much respect for these guys.
And thank you very much for joining us, Jay, and congratulations on the double victory in the Challenger class.
Woo! Thank you.
As in the background there as well from Jay Bast, someone rather happy with his victory. We'll drag in Dustin Arliss as well, the AM class winner.
Yeah, Dustin. I mean, I am speechless for you, man. I mean, it was a fantastic race on your part. You took advantage of an unfortunate mistake from Edgar Santinelli, and you end up winning the day for the amateur class. I mean, how was this car out there? I mean, it was 80 degrees air temp, so I mean, track must have been hot and a little bit slick, and definitely pretty difficult to wheel the Mustang around here, no?
Yeah, it's the weight transfer, especially in the slow corners, is always a challenge. This is not my kind of racing. I'm an IndyCar guy, and having no downforce really is a struggle, and the temperature did not help that at all.
Yeah, well, you still were able to overcome all that to end up winning the race. And you mentioned being an IndyCar guy, and for the people at home, I mean, how different are these two cars when you drive an IndyCar here compared to driving one of these big, heavy Mustangs around here?
Well, that's the IndyCar. You can kind of go way too fast all the time and survive. The Mustang, if you think about going too fast, you've already went off in the grass and you're dead.
It's a pretty good explanation is in the replay of your car going around here for the interview. You see a bit of a big incident behind here from the opening lap of the second heat. But I mean, anybody you want to give a shout out to, give yourself a little pat on the back there. I mean, you deserve it after that race. It was a great night for yourself.
So I just can't speak to the quality of every class here. Like, I really think the league is so much fun. I never would race these cars if it wasn't for this. And really close battles with a bunch of the amateurs, even though we're labeled amateur. It's good racing.
Yeah, definitely. And we can definitely tell it's fantastic racing. And honestly, I would love to drive one of these cars for you guys just for one race. But great job from yourself. I'll drag you back into the waiting rooms. Congrats on the win. Hope to see you back up here next week.
All right, thank you.
That was Dustin Allis, your winner of the amateur class here. And with that, we're going to round off the stream here tonight. Unfortunately, I have a little bit of a glitch with the overlays, so like Tom mentioned earlier, can't bring you the race results, which is unfortunate. But here, actually, if I pull them up on iRacing, yes, we can here. So, I'll bring them for you on my own here for y'all. So Wayne Castile ends up winning the day over Aero Nam, who really was on a late race charge there to try and get it done. Eric Ronenberg overcomes the field to finish P3. Matt Malone gets another spot to finish P4. Jay Bast wins the Challenger Series race with two competitors in Jesse Hodson and Michael Puchik in 5th, 6th, and 7th, right behind him, challenging him for it. Louis Enriquez ends up winning the pro class. Ends up P5 in the pro class, the back there in P8, I believe. Then Robert Hartley in 9th, Scotty Banks in 10th, and then Dustin Allis, 8th overall, but he wins the day for the amateur class here for the SBO Network's American Muscle Series. Edgar Sancinelli, after an unfortunate mistake, ends up 2nd once again in the amateur class. Matt Thompson in P13, Jay Little in 14th, Brandon Carl in 15th, Clint Fletcher in 16th, Scott Brooks in 17th, Kenny Meadows in 18th, Stefan Price in 19th, Matthew Guzenda in 20th, Martin Bork in 21st, Chris Schultes in 21st, and then 22nd, then Mike Nickham in 23rd, Eric Hardiman in 24th, Brian Howard in 25th, Dave Blair in 26th, Mike Thompson in 27th, Tom Wendt in 28th, Jeff Besnard in 29th, David Stevenson in 30th, Chuck Lemino in 31st, Mike Taylor in 32nd, Mike Key in 33rd, David Clymer in 34th, Phil Keck in 35th, and Roy Baker rounds out the field in 36th. So apologies that you guys couldn't see anything up on your screen, but I hope me giving a little bit of insight from in iRacing was able to give you a little bit of a shot for it. So, I mean, Tom, any post-race thoughts? I mean, me personally, I thought the race was absolutely fantastic.
I'm a big fan of the reverse grid, I have to say. There's merits to the traditional format, of course, but actually, I'm looking through the field. We've got 20 minutes coming up only once more in the season, actually, at Summit Point in October. I completely forgot that the Americans have a weird way of doing dates, and it's on the 11th of October, and I was reading it the wrong way around, wasn't I? But the next race, actually, the Bob at 60, that should be interesting, because that's an even longer race. We've gone the other way on the spectrum.
Yeah, and that's going to be the first of two 60-minute races here. The next one is going to be, the first is Barber next week, like you said. Then the second one is going to be the Nürburgring Combined, which is the full 16-mile Nürburgring road course there on October 4th, so you're not going to want to miss that one. But that's going to do it for us up here in the booth here. And real quick, before we...
Oh, there we go.
Before we round it off, this Thursday night, we have some upcoming streams for you guys. So this Thursday night, we have the Spec 5 World Tour returning once again for the MX-5 Mazda Miatas at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. So that's going to be a very interesting race. You're definitely not going to want to miss that one. Then this Sunday, the XSLR Series returns at 8:10 p.m. EST for the winged Dirt Sprint 410 sprint cars at Lanier National Speedway, the first short track of their dirt oval schedule. So definitely going to be an interesting race. And then next Tuesday, we have the two streams heading together yet again. And then So that's at 8:50 p.m. EST. That's WSRL, which is the LMP2 cars, and the GT3s at Monza, which is going to be a really interesting race with their field. And then for 9:05 p.m. EST next Tuesday, me, Tom, and Robert are back once again for AMS for the SPO Network's American Muscle Series, which is these Mustangs at Barber Motorsports Park for the first of 2 60-minute races. So, I actually do believe there's a bit of a typo, because if I'm not mistaken, XTC also returns next Monday as well for their first hour-and-a-half long race at Circuit of the Americas, so you're not going to want to miss that one either. But that's going to do it for us up here. My name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined in the commentary booth by Tom Dillon with Robert Schwenkler in our virtual production truck. That's going to be it for us, and we'll see you all next Thursday.
Allow Xtreme Scoring to do the work for you.